Hello everyone and welcome to round 2 of the Tuning Village tournament. I don't have anything else to say, so let's get into it. So, for this round, we're gonna be doing a city street race, specifically at Opera Paris, with racing super hard tires, and basically whoever finishes last in each race is eliminated. I don't see any reason why that should change. Anyways, let's begin round 2. So, for the first race, we have Marzo, Luca, Mad Jester, Fancy Wreck, and Obiso. And off they go into the tight streets of Paris. Marzo, who luckily started in first place, alongside Luca and Mad Jester, are already zooming off into the distance, leaving Fancy Wreck and Obiso in the dust. I bet you in the front, Marzo is cog-blocking Mad Jester and Luca. And seems like my guess was correct. On the next section, however, Marzo goes too far on the outside, which allowed Mad Jester to squeeze through and overtake him. And then Luca's RX-7 tries to do the same, but Marzo's Trueno said no. And that fact alone helped Fancy Wreck in catching up to the others. As for Obiso, it still doesn't change the fact that he's in last place. But who knows, maybe things will change later on in the race. Anyways, in the front, Marzo is still cock-blocking Luca, who does not know how to overtake, which once again is allowing Fancy Wreck to slowly catch up. And who knows, maybe Obiso will also be able to catch up. But unfortunately, that's not the case, as Luca manages to overtake Marzo on this corner, leaving Marzo, Obiso, and Fancy Wreck in a three-way battle for elimination, which is gonna be hard for Obiso and Fancy Wreck, as this track has little to no overtaking opportunities. And I can also guarantee that even Luca and Mad Jester are kinda struggling on this track. Anyways, currently in last place is Obiso. But will things change on the second lap? We're about to find out. Right off the bat, Fancy Wreck tries to overtake, but Marzo doesn't let that happen. All of this is happening while Mad Jester has already zoomed off into the distance alongside Luca. Meanwhile, Marzo is fighting for his life against Fancy Wreck, and Obiso is struggling to keep up, slowly getting left in the dust. Because unlike round 1, this time Obiso doesn't have the comfort of starting in first place. Anyways, Marzo clears this part of the track with not too much difficulty, allowing him to gain some time over Fancy Wreck, as they both make their way onto the straight. Then Marzo tries to clear this next corner, but ends up smacking into a wall instead, allowing Fancy Wreck to catch back up to Marzo. And I also noticed Obiso caught up to Fancy Wreck a bit. Meanwhile, Mad Jester and Luca are chilling with a guaranteed spot into the next round. Anyways, now that he is on the straight, Fancy Wreck tries to overtake but can't because Marzo's cog-blocking him. But will that be enough for Obiso to catch up? Not gonna lie, this three-way battle is really intense. Fancy Wreck doesn't manage to overtake Marzo, but Obiso manages to catch up to Fancy Wreck. It all comes down to these final sets of corners. Fancy Wreck tries to overtake Marzo, and Obiso tries to overtake Fancy Wreck. Meanwhile, Mad Jester had the easiest first place in history. Luca takes second place, and unfortunately, none of the attempted overtakes succeeded, which means that Marzo, quite surprisingly, takes third place, with the final safe spot going to Fancy Wreck. It was really close, but in the end, Obiso is out of here. For the second race, we have Stunt Track Driver, Slaughter, Rosie Miranto, Ferrari, and Pin. Given the lineup, this race should be pretty interesting actually, which is what I would have said if it wasn't for the fact that Slaughter got screwed over by the AI. Anyways, right off the bat, Pin easily overtakes Ferrari and then overtakes Slaughter on the speed section, leaving Ferrari and Slaughter to battle for the final safe spot as he makes his way towards Rosie Miranto. And into the twisty section we go. Slaughter goes too far on the outside due to Gordo steer, which allowed Ferrari to overtake him. Also, isn't this weird how this camera angle takes way too long to follow the cars? Anyways, Ferrari and Slaughter both make their way into the second speed section and are having a cool fight against each other. Meanwhile, in the front, Pin is stuck behind Rosie Miranto, who keeps cog blocking him, allowing him to build a bigger top speed than Pin. But that doesn't last long, as Pin's Carbon R knows how to overtake, unlike Fancy Rex S2000. No offense. So far, this has been a pretty interesting race if you ask me. Anyways, currently in last place is Slaughter, who's struggling to catch up to Ferrari, who's struggling to catch up to Rosie Miranto. All of this is happening while HW Stunt Track Driver has zoomed off into the distance and Pin is just chilling in second place. Anyways, now that the second lap is approaching, Ferrari is gonna go all out to try to overtake Rosie Miranto. Meanwhile, poor Slaughter is struggling to catch back up to the others. Anyways, Ferrari makes it past these corners onto the speed section and whoa! He almost lost control on the curb there. To avoid what happened to Ferrari, Rosie Miranto takes this corner safe and slow. And into the twisty section we go again. Once again, Rosie Miranto takes these corners safe and slow. But the same cannot be said about Ferrari, who goes over the curb with his entire car due to not taking the corner properly, which didn't happen for Rosie Miranto nor Slaughter. And that fact alone caused him to lose a lot of time to Rosie Miranto. All of this is happening while Pin and HW Stunt Track Driver are just chilling with a guaranteed victory. Anyways, Ferrari goes all out on the straight to catch up to Rosie Miranto before realizing the Celica's acceleration is complete shit comparing to Rosie Miranto's chaser. Either way, both Rosie Miranto and Ferrari drive past this corner and into the final section of the track, with no sign of Slaughter catching up anytime soon. Honestly, I kinda feel bad for Slaughter. Just like Apollo, it really wasn't his fault. Anyways, just like that, HW Stunt Track Driver earns another victory, with Pin earning another second place and advancing into the next round, along with Rosie Miranto and Ferrari. Man, a lot of these slower cars are getting screwed over. Not because they suck, but rather because the AI in this game sucks. For the third race, we have Julie Canotto, Night Drive, Serial Killer, Muka, and Martis. Hopefully, whoever's eliminated in this race should be a lot less obvious. Right off the bat, Martis tries everything he can to try to overtake Muka, or at least try to catch up. And Muka's 350Z does everything in its power to try to overtake Serial Killer, who at the moment is in a battle for the silver trophy, which Night Drive seems to be winning as of right now. All of that is happening while Julie Canotto is already zooming off into the distance. Anyways, after all this time, I guess Night Drive finally has an opportunity to test his own invention, aka cock blocking, which definitely proved to be effective. Meanwhile, in the back, Martis is trying to do everything in his power to try to overtake Muka, but doesn't seem to succeed as of right now. Going back to the podium, now that Night Drive is on the speed section, there's no way he's gonna survive against Serial Killer, right? Wrong, as cock blocking proves to be effective once again, allowing Night Drive to keep his second place. In the back, you can see that on the braking zone, Martis almost managed to overtake Muka but fell just short. The rivalry between Serial Killer and Night Drive continues as they make their way into the second lap. And while the others are busy battling against each other, Julie Canotto used this opportunity to pull away a bit. Currently in last place is Martis, but he still has one more lap to try to get out of the danger zone, which is gonna be a lot harder than he thought, as Muka isn't willing to give up easily. Going back to the podium, Serial Killer tries to overtake Night Drive but can't because he keeps cog blocking him. The twisty section comes around and Serial Killer tries to overtake Night Drive but fails horribly at it. But Serial Killer isn't willing to give up easily, as he manages to catch back up to Night Drive 10 seconds later. In the back, things are not looking good for Martis, as he fails to overtake Muka for the 10th time in this race. But the race is not over yet. Martis still has a chance to overtake Muka before the end of the race. Back to the podium, Serial Killer now has a chance to overtake Night Drive, and I know you can't see it, but he managed to successfully overtake Night Drive. As you can see right now, Night Drive has been overtaken. As for Martis, he successfully manages to catch up to Muka on the braking zone. But now he only has this one final shot at overtaking Muka. But was it a successful overtake? I guess we'll only find out at the finish line. Speaking of which, Julie Kanoto manages to pass the finish line first and is moving on to the next round, followed by Serial Killer, Night Drive, and Martis, whose overtake was indeed successful. Very well played, Muka PL. For the fourth race, we have What Is Love, I Like Cars, SVT, Terra Hockeyzard, and D2V. I swear to God, why do these fast cars always get put in the front of the grid? Anyways, right off the bat, Terra Hockeyzard and D2V are having a very intense battle, and so do I Like Cars and SVT on the podium, both of which apparently were the shortest battles in history, with SVT overtaking I Like Cars and D2V overtaking Terra Hockeyzard. Then on the twisty section, D2V tries to catch up to I Like Cars but ends up smacking into two walls instead, causing him to lose a lot of time to I Like Cars and also allowing Terra Hockeyzard to catch back up. Meanwhile in the front, SVT uses his Sylvia's cornering to its advantage to try to catch up to What Is Love, who at the moment is just chilling in first place. Meanwhile in the back, we have another freeway battle for elimination. Anyways, now that he is on the speed section, D2V is gonna go all out to try to overtake I Like Cars, while Terra's S2000 is struggling to catch up due to its shit acceleration. But given that it has good handling, even with the worst tires, he still manages to catch back up to D2V, but not quite enough to overtake him. The freeway battle between I Like Cars, D2V, and Terra Hockeyzard continues as they all make their way into the second lap. Meanwhile, What Is Love is chilling in first place as SVT struggles to catch up to him. Currently in last place is Terra Hockeyzard, but will he be able to get out of the danger zone, or is this gonna be another Apollo situation? I guess we'll only find out on the second and final lap. Anyways, I Like Cars and D2V are having an intense battle for the podium spot as Terra Hockeyzard gets left in the dust, except he doesn't, as D2V and I Like Cars are busy pushing each other's cars on the twisty section, which allows Terra Hockeyzard to catch back up a bit. You guys have no idea how many times I had to re-record that voice line. Anyways, the freeway battle is only gonna get more intense as they all get closer to the speed section. And I'm honestly surprised to see that I Like Cars hasn't been overtaken by D2V yet. Okay, now that we are on the straight, we should see some action. And I was wrong. I Like Cars is cog blocking D2V, who does not know how to overtake, and Terra Hockeyzard is just getting left in the dust. I feel bad for Terra Hockeyzard, because just like Thunderstorm Gaming, he started in the bottom half of the race while using one of the slower cars of the tournament. Anyways, in terms of the race, there's not much to say. Plus, the placements of all the competitors are pretty much guaranteed at this point. No matter how much Terra Hawkizard has tried, he just wasn't able to get out of the danger zone. Anyways, What Is Love and SVT move on to the next round very easily alongside I Like Cars and D2V. And even if Terra Hawkizard is eliminated, at least he didn't give up without a fight. And that's about it for round 2. If you enjoyed, which I know you did, like the video and maybe even consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in round 3.